Let's put your hands together. Another one for G. Senthil over here, Chief Business Development Officer, KFin Technologies, and they would be talking on masterclass role of registrar and transfer agent in setting up and managing an AIF. Everyone with a lovely round of applause.
So good evening, all of you. So I'll just keep it very crisp because of paucity of time. I think we are running little late and there are a few more speakers after me to speak. So, and we have an interesting session after this. So as the previous speaker set the context in the role of fund administrator. So the fund administrator, there are multiple facets to fund administration. The most important aspect is the registrar and transfer agents. So today, as we speak, we at KFin Tech, we manage close to about 6 crore investors, unique investors. Out of which, if you ask me how much is in alternatives, it's a very, very fractional number. But the kind of service offerings, what we provide to alternatives, is it very similar to what we provide for mutual funds? Definitely not. So we are just still in the very stage of nascency. Today, if you talk about a mutual fund, so you have somebody who has invested 5,000 rupees SIP, he has various mobility platforms, technologies, solutions for him. Whereas like an investor who is investing in AIF, ideally should be given a white glove service. But is that happening? Yes, definitely it's happening. We are transitioning into that kind of a phase. So this is what my friend previously talked about, the various roles of fund administrator. So these are various fund administration activities which we perform, but I'll confine my today's discussion only to the RTA services. So RTA services, precisely when we talk about, this is more of not only investor servicing. So I'll just move on to this slide. So right now what is happening is traditionally we see a lot of applications which were manual. So now what is happening is there is a huge amount of digital adoption which is happening. At least when we talk about AIFs, what we see is close to about 80 to 90% of the transactions which happens today is on a digital mode. So the physical mode is practically being completely knocked off and it's only digital. So when it comes to digital onboarding, why I say digital onboarding from an investor point of view is very, very critical is, unlike other applications or transactions, alternate investment funds applications are not very simple. So what most of the industry practitioners, including KFin Tech, what we have done is, we have created a different digital journey, so where there is an ease of transaction or onboarding a customer. It is not only at the time of onboarding the customer, on an ongoing basis also how the transactions happen, it is all completely made digital. So there is very, very minimal interference from an investor to onboard. So when I talk about digital, it is like end-to-end digital onboarding. So right from the stamp papers, everything is digitized and it's completely digital in nature. So this is the recent trend which we are seeing in the investor servicing. The core part of the investor servicing and RTA services is the transfer agency services. When I talk about transfer agency services, it is not only to investor servicing, it is throughout the life cycle of the fund. So right from onboarding the customer, managing the customers throughout the life cycle is what, as a transfer agent, we take care. So right from meeting the distribution, so the computations, so whatever the fund accountants, whatever they perform, so we just do the unit allocation. So everything end to end from an investor perspective. So as I rightly said, like the investors who are investing large sum of money should be given white glove services. So those kind of customizations are happening and that transition is happening in the transfer agency and the investor servicing aspect. So beyond that, like also we provide various back office support in terms of calling up customers, just reaching out to customers in terms of whether they have understood the risk perspective. So all those things are recorded because these are all high value transactions. So now more importantly with accreditation coming in, even though it is in the nascency stage, but like whether the accredited investors, what kind of allocations, so what kind of risk control mechanisms have to be. So everything is being monitored. And the next important part is the compliance. So the role of registrar and transfer agent does not end with just onboarding the investor, but it goes beyond in terms of providing compliance and monitoring services. So suppose if it is a KIP City client, so what are the various compliance metrics as an investor they should follow? So all those checks and balances are done by us. So if it is going to be SEBI reporting, what is the frequency? What are the various kinds of SEBI reports? So if it is a category 1, what kind of reports? So if it's a cat 3, what kind of reports? So in liaising with the fund accountant, so we coordinate and accordingly just deliver those reports to the various parties. It could be a tax consultant, it could be regulators. And what we have transformed now is it's like even the regulatory reports and compliance reports are made completely digital. So we have created a digital platform where if there's something has to be pushed to the regulator can download directly from the platform. So if it's a fund accountant, then there is a handshake between various fund accountants. So even though we also do fund accounting, but like if there are like various custody, like for example SBI or Edelweiss or ICICI, whoever is doing the custody and fund accounting, so there is a handshake between RTA. So that synergies have been built with multiple custodies and we are custody agnostic. So the last one, the most important part, so I'm not dwelling on the fund accounting part because like SBI detail covered on the fund accounting. So now getting into the nuances of technology solutions. So this is very, very critical aspect of investor servicing. See, today investors need technology as a tool. So it may not be for only for LPs, even for GPs or multiple parties in the ecosystem. So today, like we have a complete suite of LP platforms. So the LP just can log in and just see the entire details right from certain cases. What we also do is we do the attribution analysis, we do the performance evaluation, performance measurements, different types of computations in terms of IRR, XIRR, TWR, all sorts of calculations are computed and just given to the LPs. So the LPs have a single window view of all the transactions. Suppose if they want to see the contribution agreement, if they want to see the private PPMs. So all those things, there is one login where they can see the complete. And second thing is not only for LPs, even for GPs, we have created platforms. So where the GPs can log in and see all details related to their investors, distributors, distributor commissions, what are the payouts that need to pay, what is the sharing ratio, whether they have paid higher to source the assets. So all those things have been dissected from a GP perspective also. And lastly, we have also created distributed mobility platforms. Today, what is happening is, just to give you statistics about like the commitments which previous speakers spoke about, total roughly around 7.5 lakh crores of assets under management is what the alternates are. And if you take the total invested capital, it's close to about 50%. So roughly 3.5 lakh crores is the invested capital. The most important part is, out of this invested 3.5 lakh crores of invested capital, roughly around 50% of it is being directly sourced by asset management companies from investors. The balance 50% is still sourced by distributors. So the distributor community, so as we speak, like based on various analysis which we have done, close to about 1,000 odd distributors are pretty much, I'm talking about 1,000 odd distributors, means these are MFDs, who are pretty much active on the alternative space, apart from the large banks and national distributors who are active. So we need a platform for these distributors which are technology enabled. We have created those kind of platforms. So the role of RTA does not end in just onboarding an investor, it's just the entire life cycle for a asset manager to manage all its stakeholders, whether it's a fund accountant, whether it's their own investors or the distributor community. So that's what like we do. So it's like end-to-end solution which we provide. So I'll not get too much detail because most of you know like what are the services. More than happy to take offline in terms of what all services. So basically like how the RTA process starts, it's like right from onboarding, the KYC verification. So we do an AML checks. So once the AML checks are done, so it's not only for domestic investors, so we have it for international clients also, especially GIFT becoming very, very popular. So the AML checks for international clients and the tie-up in terms of having various agencies across the globe for verifying IPV verifications. All those things are being carried out by us. So then there are like other things like day-to-day reports, transaction reports, and these are all very, very bespoke in nature and more specific to which kind of alternatives and which kind of asset manager we service. We custom make these reports. So these are not sacrosanct and these are like, the list can be like enormous. Okay. So these are the broad contours. So I'll just not dwell, I'll just read the headlines. So one is the KYC and AML, which is very, very critical. So that we perform. So then second one is maintenance and collection of records. So we hold the inventory of investor records. So both physical and digital. So then distribution and investors, which includes everything right from trade settlement, order processing. So everything is being done by us. So and more importantly, reconciliations, which is like as my previous speaker also alluded. So we have multiple platforms to completely reconcile the three-way reconciliation done through use of technology. So almost 98%, 96% is the accuracy. Balance 4%, there will be an eyeball check to it as well. So then in terms of reports, like operational reports, FATCA CRS reports, like other regulatory reports, compliance reports, and custom reports which will be generated out of the system. So these are some things which we do. So this is little more elaborate. So maybe this presentation will be circulated to you. So this is something which we do on the AML side. So we have tied up with Refinitiv. And for global clients, we have tied up with Supti Pro. So where we do on a daily AML screening. So in terms of PEP, SEBI DBAT cases, blacklisted countries, all those things are being done as a part of sanity check. So this is at the time of onboarding itself we do. So this is done both at digital as well as physical onboarding. So this I broadly covered. And the most important part is this is something which is little very unique and not pretty simpler compared to a mutual fund or any other asset class. This is the commission module and distribution. So as I told you, 50% of the business is still sourced by distributors. So what is of paramount importance is in terms of commission payout. See, in an alternative investment fund, suppose somebody gives you a 5 crore check and he pays in certain class. So there is an additional top up. So then what happens is commissions and everything has to be recalibrated. So the system should be able to calculate upfront, trial, clawback provisions. So everything are built in, and this is a separate module which has been created just for alternatives. So which is very different from other product which we service. Okay. So these are minute details. So these, like as I told you, even though AIF application happens at even though there are multiple cities, so top 20 locations contribute to close to about 98% of the applications. And right now we are seeing 70-80% adoption in digital. So the role of branch network is steadily decreasing. So whether you have branches or not is of not much of relevance. Even though being an RTA, this is more relevant for mutual funds, but not for an alternatives. So because entirely it's been done digitally. Okay. So this also I have covered in detail. Okay. So just briefly, I'll just take 2 minutes to explain what we do. So as I told you, these are our credentials. With this one slide, out of 44 AMCs, we manage close to about 27 odd alternatives. And on the issuer services, we manage close to about 3,000 companies as an RTA, both listed and unlisted space. And Southeast Asia, we have close to about 24 asset managers where we do RTA operations and fund administration of this one. And what is more relevant is the alternative space. So we manage close to about 350 plus alternatives on the RTA, and few clients we also do the fund administration and other activities. So one thing which I want to tell before concluding is RTA is not just doing a paperwork or just doing a transaction processing. It's much beyond that, taking the entire life cycle of the fund and building more technology stack to it. That's more important. So with that, I have more to present, but maybe I'll just pass on this presentation to you later on because of paucity of time. Thank you.
All right, that was a small token of appreciation from Equalifi. Everybody, lovely round of applause for them. Thank you.